It is, at its core, a simple equation of supply and demand. The human population will rise by 50% in the next 40 years, but already many of the natural resources that sustain us are nearly gone. Conflict is inevitable. The battle lines are drawn. This is an investigation into battles over the world's natural resources.
Don't touch the camera, buddy.
Flashpoints around the globe that offer a glimpse into our future. How the fight for food could lead to the next deadly pandemic.
Things will turn to the human population and they'll spread globally.
Where the thirst for oil has touched off a deadly guerrilla war.
The battle we are waging is a battle for our life.
Whoa!
How one of the most feared and threatened creatures on the planet
Here he comes.
is caught in a human struggle.
Tag!
See it so close, just, yeah.
Never seen anything like it.
And where the air kids breathe is poisonous.
Make no mistake, it's making people very sick.
This is a planet in conflict. This is a planet in peril.
The tradition will end. The question is, will it end before there's any sharks left?
This place is not what it seems. At a glance, it's placid, beautiful even.
Well, you see the blood coming out?
Look closer, and there's a battle raging. It takes 30 hours by boat to get from Costa Rica to Cocos Island, a small rectangular rock, part of Costa Rican territory that rises out of the eastern Pacific. There are sharks there, lots of them. Scientists think more than any other place on Earth, in fact. That makes Cocos ground zero in the fight to save a species.
We just arrived at Cocos Island, and we overheard the rangers say that there is a long line somewhere around here that has 5 or 6 dead sharks attached to it.
We're on the lookout for buoys because fishermen usually attach their lines to them. It's illegal to fish within a 12-mile radius of the island.
So we found the red buoy.
But this line is less than a mile from shore.
Who's got the cutters? Can you imagine if this was Yellowstone Park and people were queuing up to shoot the grizzlies? No one would ever get away with it because it's ocean, because it's out of sight, out of mind. It just carries on.
Peter Knights is the co-founder of WildAid, an organization focused on exposing the illegal wildlife trade. His latest battle,
Yes!
saving the shark.
Sharks are probably one of nature's most successful designs. They've been on the planet for nearly 400 million years. They were designed at a time when there was no other species preying on them. Now human beings have entered the equation, and human beings are taking out sharks at unprecedented numbers, and they just can't cope.
According to WildAid, nearly 100 million sharks are killed every year around the world. 100 million. They say the population of almost every species of shark has declined by more than 50% in the past 15 years. But so what, you might say? Why should we care? Because as a top predator in the food chain, when sharks disappear, ecosystems change. And when marine ecosystems change, entire fisheries and the billion-dollar economies built around them collapse. Think it can't happen? It has. The cod industry collapsed around New England in the 1990s and cost that region over $1 billion. A similar collapse of salmon stocks happened this year on the West Coast, prompting the federal government to give more than $100 million in disaster aid.
These are ecosystems that have evolved over millions and millions of years, and as soon as you start to take out an important part of it, it's like a brick wall. You take out bricks, eventually it's going to collapse.
The reason sharks are slaughtered might surprise you. It's for their fins, an industry the Humane Society says is worth more than $500 million. We'll tell you who wants those fins in a second, but first, how they're getting them. Which brings us back to Cocos Island and something called long lining. Miles and miles of fishing line strung with thousands of hooks. It's cheap, easy, and very efficient at catching sharks.
Look at that. Completely wrapped up in it.
On this one line, there are 10 sharks. 2 of them Knights is able to save, but it's too late for the other 8.
You want to get really depressed? We're just going to check if it's pregnant. Well, there's a little baby there, you see.
Including a female about to give birth to 7 baby sharks called pups.
This is one of how many long lines that are out around this island?
There could be 20 or 30 lines in the water, which means thousands of hooks. We've seen a whole new line of buoys down here, so...
Long lining for sharks is actually legal in international waters.
That's it there, got it? That's a shark boat.
But even where it's illegal, like here, it's difficult to police. The week we spent around Cocos, we saw only 1 government patrol boat, and locals say it only shows up a few times a year. We tried approaching these 2 fishing boats we spotted within 3 miles of the island to get their side of the story. No surprise, they didn't want to talk. Catching sharks can be extremely lucrative. A single whale shark fin can sell for more than $1,000. The rest of the shark is pretty much worthless, so to make more room for the valuable fins, fishermen often resort to a practice called finning. Cutting off the shark fins, then dumping the bodies into the water while they're still alive. They can't swim, so they sink to the bottom and die. All of this to make more room for fins on the boat. So where are all these fins going? The vast majority make their way to Asia, with many passing through Taiwan. So that's where we head next, to the port of Kaohsiung, reputed to be one of the world's main hubs for fins.
Looks like they've got fins and bodies over here.
But as a ship docks and begins to unload, it's clear shark finning isn't something they're interested in discussing.
Don't touch the camera, buddy. Just so you get some more picture of this and then I'll leave. Oh, that's all. 2 more minutes and I'll leave.
It's early morning in Taiwan's southern city of Kaohsiung. We're on our way with Wild Aid's Peter Knights to the city's port, where we've heard boats are unloading their catch.
They're just unloading from the hull.
As soon as we arrive,
Come on over.
it's easy to see why this is considered one of the world's main hubs for shark fins.
That whole truck is filled with fins.
Thousands of fins are thrown from just this one ship that has spent months fishing in international waters. A forklift scoops up large piles of fins and dumps them into a truck. It quickly becomes clear they don't want us here.
What is the problem?
What's the problem? No, I don't like it.
Is this your boat? Is this your boat?
I don't like it.
This is a public place, there's no reason why it shouldn't be able to film. I think there's nothing wrong in itself, it's just they know that the sharks are being overexploited, they know that the shark fin is an issue, and they're very sensitive about it.
Sensitive because this entire industry depends on consumer demand. All of these sharks have been killed. All of these fins cut solely to make soup. That's right, soup. We'll show you what so-called shark fin soup looks like in a second, but first, some background. none of what you're looking at is illegal. Taiwan has no law against fins taken from international waters coming into their ports. Only what it calls a, quote, plan of action. That plan basically requires the bodies of the sharks the fins came from to be accounted for and not dumped into the sea.
Coming up right now?
However, at this port, we see a lot more fins being unloaded than we do bodies. But Taiwan is not alone. Shark finning thrives off weak regulations around the world. And only a few countries demand that sharks arrive in port with fins attached. Knight says it all comes down to economics.
The fin is one of the most expensive pound-for-pound items from the sea. And of course, the beauty about the fin is it's very compact, and that's why the finning goes on. You can sun-dry the fins, you can bring them back, it doesn't take up your hold, and you can make a lot of money from it.
So then it's easy to understand why the battle over sharks is so intense.
You don't want to be in it? Right, okay.
And why so many people are in on the trade.
Oh, here you go.
Wow, come here and look at this.
The low-tech processing plants for the fins are all around the port.
Next to us is a whole bunch of fins.
Yep.
From the tops of buildings, you can see thousands of fins drying in the sun.
So to separate the skin on both sides.
We were invited into a processing plant to see what happens next. After drying, each one is soaked and stripped down so that just the cartilage remains.
Even the fin itself, very little of the fin is used, just the cartilage inside. And it's...
After a few minutes inside the plant, this manager got nervous and asked us to leave.
We were initially allowed access, but now the owner seems to be having second thoughts.
Shark fin soup has been around for centuries, but it used to be rare. A delicacy enjoyed by the wealthy for special occasions. Not anymore.
China, in this case, is the 800-pound gorilla. We've seen the growth of the Chinese middle class in the last 15 years from probably 5 or 10 million to 250 million, and it's just been explosive, as we've all seen. And that's just had a tremendous impact on the demand for shark fin soup.
It's now a mass market where shops sell fins by the bagful. And restaurant menus boast not only the $100 bowl of soup, but $10 bowls and all-you-can-eat shark fin soup buffets.
So, Pete, it's a Thursday night. This restaurant's practically full. This is one of thousands of restaurants in the world that serve shark fin soup. How are you going to stop this?
Well, I'm not sure we're going to stop it altogether. We just need to reduce it to sustainable levels. That's the goal.
Knight says their efforts are having an impact, but he knows the odds are stacked against the shark. And time is quickly running out.
The message is getting out there, slowly but surely, but it's a huge, huge challenge. The tradition will end. The question is, will it end before there's, whether there's any sharks left?
Pete says the reason why sharks are so threatened is because they are feared and misunderstood. And some people think that the best way to understand sharks is to actually see them up close. But as Anderson found out when he went to swim with great white sharks, that's really touching off a battle of its own.